Hello guys, let's solve this problem, Java array list on HackerRank. So you are given n lines. In each line there are 0 more integers. You need to answer a few queries where you need to tell the number located in yth position in xth line. So if we look at the format, the first line has an integer n. In each of the next n lines there will be an integer d denoting number of integers on that line. So on the first line we would be given an integer n that would denote the number of lines. So if it is written 5 here, so it would denote that there are 5 lines, 1 2 3 4 5. Then there will be an integer d that would denote the number of integers on that line. So firstly there would be an integer on the first line that would denote the number of lines, and if we look at each line there would be an integer that would denote the number of elements on that line. So if we look at this, so firstly there are 5 lines, and on the first line we can see 5 over here, which tells us that there are 5 elements, 1 2 3 4 5. And in the second line there is 1 element, and on the fourth line there are 4 elements. So in the next line there will be an integer q denoting the number of queries. So after the 5 lines there would be an integer q that would denote the number of queries, and the query would have a x element and y element. So this is x, 3 is y, 3 is x, 4 is y. So first we would be given an x element and then the y element. In each line, output the number located in yth position of xth line. If there is no such position, just print error. So according to this query, we have to find out the elements. So if we look at this, the first element, which is x, tells about the number of line. So if it tells about 1, so it means we would go to the line number 1 and output the third element. So this would be 1 2 3. This 74 would be the third element. We would not be counting 5 because 5 tells us the number of elements on that line. So there is 74 printed over here. And if you look at the next query, 3 4, so it means third line and fourth element. 1 2 third line and fourth element. So the fourth element would be 1 2 3 4 52. So 52, so 52 would be printed over here, and it would print out error if there is no such position. So for example, line 4 and third element, 1 2 3 4. So line 4 has 0 element, so it does not contain any third element. And in the same way, if you look at fifth line and fifth element, so the line fifth has only 3 elements, so fifth element cannot be printed out. So we would print out error over here. So we can look at this diagram to get a better understanding of what we are doing. If we start with the solution, firstly what we would do is we would create a scanner object using scanner class. Now we would firstly take this input integer, which would tell us the number of lines. I would write int n is equal to, so this n would store the number of lines. Now what we would do is we would declare a 2D array list. So basically it's a 2D array, some sort of 2D array. So we will use this Java array list concept over here. So we would now declare a 2D array list. So what we'll do is we will write we would name it list of list, because basically it's a list of list, the same way 2D array is an array of array, we can say. So we would name it list of list and declare it. Okay, so now that we have declared an array list, what we would do is we would create a for loop that would input these element. So I would write I is less than n, because here we have taken the number of lines I plus plus. Now firstly we would take this number of elements. So I would declare a variable number of elements. Now we would initialize a new array list to hold the elements of the current sublist. So I would write array list of integer type. I would name it sublist is equal to new array list. So we also have to input the elements. So for that I would use another loop. And it would iterate till number of elements, till the value present in number of elements, j++. Now we would use add method which would add element to the current sub list. I would write sublist dot add scanner dot nextInt. So we have populated this sublist with elements. Now we would use an add method which would add the populated sublist to the main list of list. I would write list of list dot add sublist. So now that we have input the elements, now what we'll do is we will input the number for the query. So firstly we have to take the number of queries. So I would write int a is equal to scanner dot nextInt. Now that I have input the number of queries in integer a, now I would declare an integer x for the number of line that would tell the number of line, and integer y that would tell us about the position. So for that I would use a for loop. Integer I is equal to 0, I is less than a, I plus plus. Now I would declare variables x and y that would take input from the user. So if the line and position is correct, it would print out that element in that line and in that position, and if it's not correct, it would print out error. So I would write try block system.out.println. Now I would use here the get method because we are dealing with an array list over here. So I would write list of list dot get x minus 1 and dot get y minus 1. So the reason over here that we are subtracting minus 1 over here is because we are dealing with an array list over here, and the indexing of an array list or array starts with 0. So we have to convert the value given to us x and y whose indexing start from 1 to 0 based indexing, because we are dealing with the array list over here. So that is why I have subtracted minus 1 from here. Now I would write a catch block over here that if anything goes wrong, it would print out error. I would write exception E over here. Now if I run the code, now I would try to submit it. So the code has passed all the test cases and it is a success. Thank you.